I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
And StreamYard for the second week in a row beat you telling me to say I'm Brent Leary.
Oh, okay. So how about next week you do that and I'll follow accordingly.
All right. But in the meantime, we are the CRM Playaz.
Thank God for that.
Well,
or maybe not him.
Yeah, we'll see how this
Or
one
her.
goes. But anyway, it is kind of a rather brisk December the 9th here in the Atlanta area.
What
Oh,
does
look.
that mean? Like 60?
Nah, I don't even think we're going to get to 60 today. I think we're might be staying in the 50s here. It is 54 degrees.
Woof.
Oh. But we have an upset. For the second week in a row, Sven is not on the job. But Marshall is.
Whoa. Hey, Marshall. Woo. What tea, by the way? What are you drinking?
And look
I'm
at
always looking for
Jesus.
good teas. Yeah.
Yes, we will see you soon.
Hang around. We might see you sooner than you think.
Yeah, if you notice we can't think of anything to talk about, just jump right in.
Yeah, the good news is that's never stopped us from saying things.
Well, that's true. So, yeah, don't worry about it. Look, here he is.
Oh, now that's a language I do not know.
I don't know what that is.
Tena Kutu. All right, Sven, you got me on this one.
Look, Christine has
Christine.
coffee.
Woo. Okay. All right, Christine.
Now.
And what coffee are you drinking? I'm trying to find Marshall's tea, your coffee. Give us some brands here.
By the way, when I said she was with ServiceNow, can we just say she was with ServiceNow, or do you do the ServiceNow?
She was with Service SN? No, that would then people think SNL. SNL? No, I don't have a clue. You say ServiceNow squared? Alexa, be quiet.
I don't know, but Sven is blaming LinkedIn for him not getting the first comment in.
Wow, look at what the language is. Sven's prior comment.
Oh, where is it?
Maori. Way to go.
I don't even.
Way to go.
Where is that country? Is there a country?
It's not a country. Language. It's a tribe.
Language?
It's a tribal nation. That's inside.
Like a tribe called Quest?
No.
I'm sorry.
Not in the slightest.
I couldn't help myself. All right. No. So Christine has Dunkin' and Marshall has
Bigelow
Vanilla Chai.
Oh, but look at that. No milk, man.
Yeah, that's just too. Look how long it takes for what he got. Bigelow Vanilla Chai, unsweetened, no milk, just the tea.
He's hardcore.
He is on the hardcore side.
That is hardcore. That is. I see. I would when it's chai. I always put in milk, but not. I'm going to try it your way, Marshall. Yeah, I know. What are you supposed to do? It was much easier, Christine, when you said you were at Oracle, and we say now she's at Oracle. She's at Oracle, but now we have to say you're at ServiceNow now.
Just like, was she originally with Right Now?
Oh God! Hey,
so Christine, she went from Right Now to ServiceNow with a little stop with Oracle in between. I think.
Wow!
You got to let us know, Christine. Were you at Right Now?
If she was, this will be a predictor of her next job. We know the last three letters it's going to end in.
Yes.
Huh.
All right. So, if anybody saw Jesus Hoyos's, what does he call his? CRM Conversaciones or something?
No,
like that?
Conversaciones, but he calls it Tormando, I think, or Tormenando. I'm going to go check.
By the way, Christine did work it Right Now.
Oh, my God.
So she's gone from Right Now to ServiceNow with a stop at Oracle in between.
All right, so we now have to start looking up tech companies that end in now.
That's right. Marshall has proclaimed Christine the Now Lady. And I bet her favorite candy growing up was, you guessed it, Now and Laters.
Wow. Okay, let's see what we got here with Jesus.
CRM Conversations.
No, it would be Conversaciones.
Oh, there it is. Alan is helping him out. Tomando Café con Jesus.
That's it. Tomando Café con Jesus.
That's just a really classy sounding show.
But what does Tomando mean? But now I'm doing, of course, Google Translate.
Oh, look, Christine was also like Qualtrics. You should have told him to rename it Qualtrics now. Then it would have fit in.
What the heck is that?
What?
No, hold on. Stupid. Let's try again. I do not.
What are you trying to do?
I'm actually now going to try to translate Tomanda. I don't know. Of course, we could just ask Jesus.
Yeah, why don't we just ask Jesus?
Might probably
It
easier.
might be a little easier. Is it drinking coffee? That's it. It's drinking coffee with Jesus Hoyos.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, there we go.
Yeah. See how much easier it is just to ask Jesus.
Drinking corn. Oh, thank you. All right. Okay, Jesus, what kind of coffee, though?
Oh, boy.
Why don't we save
some questions? Why don't we save some questions for when he actually joins us in a few minutes?
Why? What's the point?
Well, gives us something to talk about. But anyway, so we were actually on his show yesterday, and we had a fun conversation. It was a good conversation.
Wasn't it Tuesday?
Yeah, it was. Wow, today is Thursday. How did I lost Wednesday?
Don't worry. That's just the usual for most of us, I think.
There's Finn, always bringing back the bagels.
I'm just drinking flavored water. That's it.
All right. So before we bring Jesus on, I did have a couple things. I've been thinking about something. Now, I want to get your take on this.
All right.
Now, I know you're doing a lot of studying around TikTok.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, seem to be spending more and more time on YouTube.
Okay.
I think I'm doing hours at this point, between looking for stuff like help with what technology to buy. Once I buy it, how do I use it? Or looking for things like best way to set up my studio space, because I want to switch things around a little bit. So I spend a lot of time. And then maybe the thing I spend the most time on, and I've mentioned this a couple of times on the show, I watch a lot of the reaction videos.
Right.
And I like, particularly, I love watching people who have never seen or heard a Prince song, which it's a shame to say there's a lot more of those people that really should be around on this face of the earth. But there are people like that. So I love watching these reacting to Purple Rain or reacting to When Doves Cry. But I've noticed, and this is where this is a big shift coming, and kind of taking into consideration all the stuff we're hearing about jobs and how people are walking away from jobs, and younger people are saying no to certain kinds of jobs. So I've been watching these reaction videos. There's some that really do great jobs with this stuff. But what I really just dawned on me was these people, and the ones that got several 100,000 followers for just reacting to stuff, I'm starting to think that as I see more videos from these folks on a daily basis, these folks are getting away from whatever they were doing to make a living, and they are literally starting to make a living reacting to stuff. I mean, like this one guy, young guy, he goes by Just Jammin'. He's got like 30 or 40,000. So that's not a whole lot, but it seems to me All of a sudden, he started making tons of videos. He drops multiple videos a day. It almost was like at some point he got to a situation where he could start doing this full time. And so not only is he reacting to videos and getting a big audience, like big subscribers, he's charging, and I've seen this by other people too. They are charging 40, 50, 60, upwards of $100 if you want him to react to a certain song or video. So let's just say over the course of a week, and I'll just to make it an even $50. Let's say he's able to monetize 0.5% of his subscribers. That's like 300. If he can get 300, well, let's just say it's around 200, 300. If he's able to get 200 to 300 people, let's say a month, to pay him $50 to watch something that they want him to watch and to respond to, that ain't bad money.
No,
that's the beginnings of some pretty good money. Now, let's say he goes from 30,000 subscribers to 300,000, or there are people that I'm watching that have 1 million subscribers. So they're getting advertising revenue. They're getting money for people who want them to respond to specific things. I've seen them also doing their own merch line. Like they create their own little logo.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They put it on
That's
all sorts
big.
of stuff.
That's big.
So they are spending not a lot of money to get started. There's not a lot of startup costs. You got a laptop with a nice little webcam. Maybe you get a little mic. You don't have to get anything really expensive, because the other thing I see is as they get more subscribers, they update their equipment. So they're getting started on the low. They're just going out and reacting to things that are already there. And some of these folks end up making like upwards of $1 million a year on just reacting to stuff that's already out there. So why would you want to go get a job if you're able to do that?
But that to them, to your point, first of all, YouTube is still the venue for that at every level. And look, I watch TikTok because of the algorithm, because I think it impacts content creation. But YouTube is still where, same as you, I go to learn. I don't go to learn anything on TikTok, really. I go to learn on YouTube. And for example, I think I don't know if we talked about it, but I know you and I have talked about it. But there was there's this one creator, Sean Cannell, I think it is. I don't know if it's Sean Cannell. No, it wasn't him. It was Harris Heller, who is Alpha Gamer. That's what he goes under. Now, a lot of these gamers, of course, go to YouTube and then they talk gear and other things like that. He dropped that he was making like $150,000 a month, right, on YouTube. And you know, YouTube itself, I saw some sort of article that said YouTube paid out to content creators on YouTube last year $30 billion. I mean, the numbers are staggering. And
billion.
Yeah, $30 billion. That's what they paid out, right? And keep in mind what half the payout is. But look at the interesting thing, to your point. Well, I'm going to take it past just the reaction videos. Yeah. Well, but even here, a good example. Well, there's two interesting points relative to this. One is sort of relative to reaction. There's this one YouTube singer. Her name was Lanny Gardner. She's the one who did the channeling of what's her name? Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac and Dreams. And as a result of that, she now has a record contract, a major record contract. But as a result of that one video, okay, her other videos are fine, but nothing like that one. That one got 29 million views or something because it was such, and it was an uncanny kind of channeling. Secondly, the interesting thing is how they further monetize, not just what's monetized via YouTube. To your other point about charging $50, a lot of them use, if you actually look at a lot of YouTube videos, they have join and subscribe. Subscribe is free and join isn't. And join is usually through Patreon, right? And
yeah, that's what I was saying. That's
yeah.
the other layer. Like, if you want to go deeper with those folks, most of these folks have some kind of membership site on the back end, like a Patreon thing. And then remember, let's talk about my buddy that I just introduced you to, Uncle Lou.
Right.
Now, I come across Uncle
I love
Lou.
that guy.
Uncle Lou is great. So I'm a big SEC football fan. I live down in SEC country in Atlanta. And so on YouTube, sometimes I like trying to find highlights and, different perspectives of what's going on. And I just ran up against this dude who calls himself Uncle Lou. And Uncle Lou is probably the most rabid University of Georgia Dogs fan there is. This guy has a video, and I shared it with Paul.
It's awesome.
He melts down when UGA loses in some kind of weird fashion. He has been known to destroy TVs on his live stream, but in this certain instance, Uncle Lou was so distraught with how Alabama beat UGA on the last play of the game that he literally almost killed himself drinking a 40-year-old Coke. And Paul knows what happened. I thought,
oh my God, that was so gross. Oh my God. People should just watch that just to see what goes on with him right after he drinks it. I swear to God,
I thought he was going to die.
I did too. I thought it was literally going to die.
But so he basically turns the camera or uploads a video of him responding or reacting to something with football, college football that's UGA related. So I came on the radar or he came on my radar, I guess, maybe 3 years ago. He might have had a couple thousand followers. So this year I started getting back into things and I looked up Uncle Lou. Uncle Lou now has closing in on 45,000 followers. Uncle Lou has, every time he does a video, several thousand, 17, 18,000 views. He does a live stream. Like, if you want to watch him react in real time to a UGA football game, you got to be a Patreon member. And he's got several thousand of these folks that do this. So he turned his frustration and seeing UGA lose in different ways into a pretty much a cottage industry. And it didn't cost him anything but camera, mic, and time watching the dogs, which he would have done anyway.
Did you see what he actually does for a living?
No.
He's a TV repairman. He has his own shop. He has his own shop.
That makes total sense. That's why he's able to break those TVs like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's amazing. No, but look, that's a really important point. It's pretty much encapsulating what you see around when you start reading let's say the higher level articles on it or posts or discussions. It's around the creator economy. And, and some companies are getting very smart about it.
This is some good stuff for the comments here.
I know. I've been sort of keeping my eye on it. It's pretty great.
Jeez. Anyway,
yeah,
I just see that. Are we seeing all these in these discussions of the great resignation or discussions that people don't want to work because, XYZ is more a case of these folks have found a new way to make a living that takes them out of the traditional workforce?
I mean, I think it's part of it. Look, the reality is options now exist that didn't. And I think it's more like that. And number one. And number two, I think nothing happens to it. It's just that the lie and that's in the original, in the LYE, that's in the original Coke formula just comes out more. That's all.
By the way, if you want to see this, just go to Google. I'm going to go to YouTube and search for Uncle Lou.
It's hilarious.
Coke.
It's literally hysterically funny. I mean, this guy, he's not stupid, man. He's an articulate
No.
guy who's really knowledgeable about what's going on in a football game, but he's a very articulate guy too. And he's just the most rabid fan of anything I've ever seen. He actually beats you on the Rams, I think, which is how rabid this guy
Well, I've
truly
never
is.
broken a TV, so
No,
I mean,
that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. But he's amazing. But I do think, look, I think it's important. And ultimately, people still do turn to YouTube to learn. I mean, and that's why, but YouTube itself is being affected by things like TikTok, because if you'll note, there's a lot of TikTok compilations, there's YouTube
Right.
short form, they're adding all kinds of stuff. But ultimately, the YouTube channel is for creators to teach, and creators to show you how to do things. And that's the power of it. And that's who makes the money. They have all these YouTube, how to make money on YouTubers. And all of them say, have a provocative headline and do all this other stuff. And it is true. Unfortunately, a lot of it is just crap and stupid headlines. But underneath it all, there's a ton of genuine knowledge being presented by very articulate people. Like, for example, I mean, how many, given what we're doing all the time, how many actual just people who just happen to be photographers? And I mean, they're not videographers. They're not, they're photographers who happen to use cameras that maybe of interest us or whatever. But then, the way they always made their money was taking the photographs. Now they're making money talking about the cameras that take the photographs that they use to take the photographs, and the details and the settings and what to think about. And they're very helpful and very smart. And it gives them an additional source of income where they may have been making, unless they're really highly successful, they may have been making 50 grand or so, whatever. Now they've probably got an additional source of income that, helps them, in effect, go to a new tax bracket. And, there's a lot of that too. It's not even a cottage industry. It's really a part of the economy at this point. It's these are not peripheral.
But to me, I think the common theme that I've seen in the stuff that I watch is that these folks don't start out, or at least it doesn't feel like they start out with a monetary concern.
No, they don't.
At its front. It's more like they just go with what they're passionate about.
Yep.
And then an audience starts to capture that. And then I think the idea of, wow, maybe I can actually make a little money off of this. Because a lot of them say, any kind of donation helps for me to keep the channel growing and going. But that's revenue. So I think the ones that I've seen that seem to be very popular in the stuff I'm interested in, it starts with that passion, and then they're able to monetize the passion in a way that draws people towards them and doesn't repel people. And I think that's what's happening. And maybe these traditional metrics when it comes to employment are not picking some of this stuff up.
I would agree with you for sure on that. I mean, there's so many different approaches too. Like, there's this family who have been doing this stuff for probably 6-7 years, but really came into their own during COVID, named the Holderness family, Holdernerss. And this happens to be a guy, a husband, a wife, and a kid. And as it works out, the husband's a kind of a really, really good song parody guy. And the wife is just a natural performer, and the kid is turning out to be a good performer. And they do all these parodies. And so, for example, they did but they also have this second channel they opened up called the Family Vlogs, and they just do parodies that are not songs. So they have on Being Sick Now versus 2019. Is it that hilarious? I watched it. Is it hilariously funny? No. However, 7 hours ago, they put it up, and they have 32,000 views already. Right. And 10 days ago, they put up Die Hard is a Christmas movie parody, which actually was funny. And they have 92,000 views there. 8 days ago, Honest Christmas Songs, 134,000 views, and he keeps going like that. They did a Weird Al parody called Weird Al Narrates Thanksgiving, 172,000 views. They have their own line of merchandise, things like that. They did a parody called It's Vaccination Day 8 months ago, 1 million views. So
Dang,
but this is a family. Yeah. Oh yeah. This family is just when they started, I saw them before the COVID, but I started watching them during more. But when they're really good. I mean, the guy is a genuinely clever song parodist, and he writes and he's got good equipment, and now they're putting on, in the early days it was just him kind of singing around the house. Now they're putting on like full-fledged performances. It's almost like small skit, like skits you would see not at the level of say SNL, but it would be a genuine skit. And but they have a line of merch and it sells, right? They have a ton of followers. They did it,
Christine.
you're right. Amen there. By the way, I highly recommend Conan O'Brien's interview with Weird Al on Conan's podcast. Conan Needs a Friend. Listen to it.
Wow.
Last summer, I think, this past summer. So, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, these are people who naturally started out just having fun and putting it up, because the power of YouTube has always been people will watch me, right? That's been the power of YouTube from day one, right? And it still is the power of YouTube. Now, not only will people watch me, but they will back me, they'll support me, and they'll listen to me, right? If I'm giving them advice, they'll pay attention. And the brands stepped in and they're now saying, you look at the gear brands, man, how many times do you hear disclaimers and this and that from the gear? Because all those gear companies have sent all these people gear to review, and half the time they keep it and half the time they have to send it back. But it is always the disclaimer, this has no impact on blah, blah, blah. But it's nonstop. How the brands are fully locked in to this stuff, and they are scouring this, right? So, there's money to be made there. And, we've talked about the gig economy for so damn long with, what do you call it? Lyft and Uber and
Uber.
And things like that. But there's not that much money to be made there. That just happens to be convenient and you can get it. There's a lot more money to be made on this if you have a little bit of equipment and a lot of passion and then capture some interest in some.
So why don't we do this? We need to find out, or maybe discuss, how all that's going on over the consumer world, what the potential impact is for like what we do and how we use it, and introduce our guest to have that conversation with. So I'll leave it to the venerable Paul Greenberg.
Well, what was the name of that guy who got hired again as a coach?
The guy that got hired again.
Yeah, Brent what?
To introduce our buddy and guest for the next half hour.
Well, listen, I mean, if there ever was a fifth horseman, this gentleman is the fifth horseman. It's Jesus Hoyos. I don't know how much introduction
he's
he
the
needs.
Billy
Everyone
Preston of the Horsemen, or the Beatles kind of thing.
I mean, Jesus, not just a long-time industry influencer, successful, built a successful consulting company in Latin America, became with this powerhouse of a consulting company and his own thinking, became the leading CRM guy in Latin America, period. And when I say that, I'm also including companies like Accenture and all the other companies who are big players there. Jesus's influence exceeded all of them combined. And he's just a super cool guy. It's like we love him, right? We just love the guy.
Alan.
Yeah, Alan, you're really going to the limits on this one.
So with all that said, let us welcome the one and only Jesus Hoyos.
There's the man.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're
absolutely
perfect.
Looking good, sounding good.
I look good.
Yeah, you look beautiful.
Yesterday what was it? Tuesday.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say.
Well, let me blame Comcast and Xfinity. The last 2 days being held here in the house with the internet, but back in business. Thank you.
Thank you look much better than you did Tuesday. Absolutely.
Yes.
You're clear. So, given everything we just said, and given that you were lurking in the LinkedIn comments, what do you think?
I need to teach you how to speak Spanish and read Spanish.
Well, actually, I can read it better than you think. I just can't read it. I have to spend a little time with it. I can't speak it though. I can read it.
Yeah, I put the links over there. Conversaciones de CRM, CRM Conversations. I have those every Tuesday, and those are with fellow, people who are, doers, people who are doing stuff out there, and fellow analysts, industry, and so on and so on. Tomando café, drinking coffee with Jesus Hoyos is only with vendors. So the vendors come in and we talk about the products. And Alan has been there a couple times, and we talk about, if they want to demo, if they want to talk about, how they're doing in Latin America or elsewhere. So we have a conversation. So, and I've been, everybody's been there, Salesforce, Sugar, Soho, Freshworks, and so on and so on and so on. And
okay.
And that's what I did a crossover with you guys on Tuesday, and now I'm here with you guys to discuss, everything about CRM and I guess YouTube.
Yeah.
Consumers, you know what? You guys were talking about, the gig economy and the great resignation and Uber and everything. And, you guys were describing my sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was the one I had in mind when I was talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Full-time, worker, project manager. She works for a company, making signs, those, billboards and the signs of the buildings,
Yep.
Every time that Starbucks has a new, franchise, there's, they have to put the signs out there, so she does that. Okay. And of course, during COVID, that was, everything went, the people hit the brakes and nobody were doing anything like that. So she was let go with the plan to come back. She was planning to come back and she said, no, I'm not going to come back because this is what happens. Customers are starting to talk to her directly.
Oh.
And she was doing Uber at the same time, Uber Eats, more money with Uber. And she's starting to do other things on the side. And when she put all the things together, she was making about the same amount of money, like working from 9 to 5, more time for her. Okay. More time to dedicate, to do stuff in the house with husband, daughters and family and so on. So, when you put all the above, and people say, I have to come back, I have to be vaccinated or not vaccinated, the mask or not the mask, and the hassle to go out there and work. And some employers are not really doing a good job. People want to quit, and there's other things that they can do. They don't have to go to YouTube to do a lot of money, but They can do a few things here and there because now, we have the gig economy. And this is something that is happening a lot too in Latin America. And that's why, there is a big growth in Latin America with fintechs, and just now, Nubank, NU Bank, the largest open bank in Brazil, is becoming the largest, I think, open bank in the world. They just went public in Wall Street today.
Wow.
And it's not because they're taking away consumers from the other banks. Is because a lot of the people who are doing the gig economy, they want to do, transactions out there. They are cheap, they are convenient. People pay them directly, So there's a huge market on that, and they all live on the iPad or a tablet on the Android, and that's all they do, And there's many other companies, growing like that because of this. I don't know if I want to call it, the great resignation. People are shifting priorities.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's other options out there to make money, and that's going to change. How fast, the direct to consumers or B2B or B2C companies, react and go after the market. And that's for me part of that the whole economy. Listen, I do a lot of mountain biking. I follow 3 guys. There's one guy that used to be here in South Florida. He moved to Asheville. And you see the progression that he has for YouTube, but he has a mixture of different channels, Patreon, YouTube. He has now a mountain bike park. He has sponsors. So he has a bunch of income sources that allows you to do that. And by itself, every time that I follow him, and there's another guy up in California who's putting a park together, a mountain bike park in Sierra Nevada, north of Tahoe. And there's another guy that he's on the van, and they have different sorts of incomes, and they do by itself are becoming, companies. They're becoming, I guess their own sponsors, and they use CRM. You can tell that they use CRM because I get their emails, I get the WhatsApp, they know how to do stuff, and I think that's part of what is happening. And this is something that's happening in Latin America for many, many, many years too.
It's a huge transition. I mean, and it's noticeable globally, and it's also, again, it kind of goes to the generational thing. To some degree, the younger generations aren't coming in with a whole lot of preconceived notions about what work should be. They're coming in with a lot of preconceived notions on what they want to get from it, but what it isn't really the point. It's what they get from it, right? And if you remember, the initial phase is when millennials first entered the workforce, there was this whole big discussion. I still remember this because it was like crazy discussion around the millennials feel that they are entitled to the following things from the company, and they should get this. And a lot of it was, in effect, not literally, but parental guidance of some kind. But it was also just, you need to have a purpose company. You need to have, things that we would now get behind. Where, my generation grew up with, we grew up in the post-war industrial revolution, global industrial growth. And so it was very specific what work was and has been. Those models are beginning to evolve. And I think when people on the B2B side, on the enterprise side, on the one hand, the consumers are still the same people who are working at those companies and who are running those companies. Just, in some cases they are impacted because they have no way of avoiding whatsoever these new formats for, content and distribution and how you transact changing and what kind of jobs are available. They are there. Okay. And, there's been a loss of control, obviously, at some level, not complete by any means, but some loss of some control. All these things have been happening. On the other hand, Alexa, stop. She's very busy.
I have Alexa here, and I have Google too. So,
well, great. I'll introduce my A to your Google, because she doesn't know anybody like that.
And Siri too on the phone.
She only knows other A's, right? So, but that's what I'm saying. The world is shifting so much, and the opportunities are so much wider, and there's constant proof that the new ways of working work. They actually work. I mean, it's like people, and the typical proof point is making money, right? That's the typical proof point. I'm making money doing something I really like doing, and people are just then doing it. It goes to Brent's original point on passion. In the B2B world, it's just, look, remember, all three of us were talking back in 2005 and 2006 about the consumerization of business. Right, we all were talking about that. I remember a discussion, all three of us, and I think Esteban was part of the discussion too. But there was at least one or two others. Well, Alan, then does that mean we're supposed to pay you?
We'll pay him double what we paid him last year.
Thanks, Marshall. He's taking us off the hook there. Thank you, sir. But that's what I'm saying. With the consumerization of business now is just like, how to put it, it's unstopped and unstoppable, right? So it just, people think, you're one human being who does multiple things, but your mind works and your emotions work accordingly. So I think this is a huge transition. I think your sister is pretty much a perfect representation of that transition. And I think though, that said, when you're a content creator, I mean, literally the type of person we're talking about out there on YouTube, the money opportunities are huge because people are looking to consume like that, right? So it's not. It's so I there's a again, Harrison Heller, a guy, nice looking young guy, is a total geek, gamer, has boxes and shelves full of gear, video, audio, the whole thing. And one day he just drops, he's making 150,000 a month off of YouTube alone. That's not that unusual. It's not common.
Yeah, and and going back to where TikTok, in the last, I guess 60 days or so, 90 days, I've been in Tomando Café with Jesus Hoyos. I've been having, conversations with a lot of the social media vendors, Medwater, HotSuite, a couple others from Spain and Latin America. And the shift that's happening right now is that we're moving from so-called influencers that have millions and millions of followers to micro and nano influencers. That's what the people that you find in TikTok or Instagram with the stories, and those people eventually will take you to long form content, being a blog, a podcast, a video, and that's where a lot of companies also, companies, I talked this to the guys from Rock Content. They help companies, develop, content strategies, for a whole year or 2 years. And they were saying that companies, they need to become creators of content. They cannot just push messages out there, And I think Salesforce is one example of that,
Yeah.
Salesforce, they create content, and for me, Salesforce is a marketing company that happens to sell software, and they come up with them, with their own Salesforce Plus, so, HubSpot is trying to do the same, and many others are trying to they acquire CMO, the CMO Council, I believe, and so on and so on. So, companies need to become creators of that content because that's what we consume. We consume those stories, and that's how you reach out to people. And it's funny because I'm almost every night on YouTube. Tutorials, fix something in the house and everything. And yesterday I was bombarded. I guess they already figured out that I'm Puerto Rican. West Side Story everywhere. But nano and micro influencers. I mean, I was not getting like ABC or CBS, those interviews. I was getting, the short 10, 15 interviews of Steven Spielberg with Rita Moreno, But, I look and the people didn't have a lot of followers, but they were concise to one audience, one segment in particular. They were talking and they were telling a story, and I think that's part of what is coming.
What's the difference between a micro and a nano influencer? Is it like their height?
Yeah, they macro and nano in micro and nano influencer. Those are the ones that will
No,
show
I know
up.
what they are. I'm just wondering what the difference between the two of them are.
Just I guess the amount of traffic that they
increase
and the reach in that particular moment.
Okay.
In that particular moment, they do it. So, and you need to have AI. You need to understand the algorithms to understand, to that point, So, I don't know. Charlie Isaac, I consider he a micro influencer.
Yeah.
And Vala is the influencer.
Right.
So
well,
it's funny because I had Vala on Tomando Café, and in YouTube I have like 1,000+ views.
Yeah, right away.
So so that's the difference. So and goes back to what we discussed on Tuesday. Creating this content requires following that conversation. And that's what it is. All this stuff, these conversations. I need to be sure that you capture that and you engage and you do something with it.
I want to bring this question by Marshall. I think we're kind of circling all around it. So you use some examples about companies like Salesforce and people like Vala and Charlie. But how do businesses get comfortable giving away the control to the creators? Or is it, how do they integrate and collaborate and become part of the creator economy kind of ecosystem without trying to take it over?
Well, I think if you want to use that example, I think Vala has a control message that he doesn't talk about Salesforce.
You're right.
But he talks about Salesforce.
Right.
And then going back to that, to what Marshall was Marshall, no? Yeah. Content creator requires freedom. That's Charlie. He was just stealing, stuffed animals from Dreamforce, New York a few minutes ago and making jokes and everything. And that's not planned. That's not PR. That's Charlie being Charlie, and both of them are good, so, you need to have a good team to manage that type of content, because you're going to have different audiences to do that, so yeah, but you need freedom somehow.
Well, if you go
freedom, freedom and be able to measure that freedom of content creation. You need to measure that. If you don't measure the content, it's not good.
Well, go all the way back, like all the way back, long before any of this, which was, you remember how blogging got popular? It was Robert Scoble at Microsoft, right? And he was given the freedom. Basically, Microsoft said, "You want to do this thing? Go ahead and do it. We won't put legal in the way. We won't, just go ahead and do it." He basically said, "Let him do it." And he would attack Microsoft in his blogs at times, and they didn't say, "You're fired." They just let him do what he did, right? And there wouldn't even be a blogging world if it weren't for the fact that Scoble had that freedom to do that. When a company was actually intelligent about realizing, give these people, look, the freedom within a company is never going to be unqualified. There's going to be some qualifier somewhere. I mean, partly it could be a qualifier they have nothing to do with. You don't have the freedom to go violate the, HIPAA, for example, while you're writing, and expose data, right, that can't be exposed. I mean, there are certain things you can't do. The idea is, though, if to your point of measurement, in effect, the measure of the success of the Scoble freedom is the fact that blogging is still a massive global way of, consuming content, and something that millions of people began to do, and I'm sure Microsoft had its own measures of stuff, but here's the interesting question from that, though, because if Microsoft's measure was how many views the blog got, that would be traditional metrics applied to a brand new means. What kind of metric? Now let's move ahead to now. So I'm a enterprise company. I'm saying to my either a group of employees or my entire employee base, although probably a group, I would suspect. Let's go ahead and put up TikTok videos, and they can be related if you want to. Don't worry about them being related to the company. That's okay. We can't stop them personally anyway. But if you want to do TikTok videos on behalf of the company, go ahead. Now, two-part question. Question one is, do you preset some parameters for that and let it roll, or do you just let it roll? And number two is, how do you measure success in that kind of thing? I know the answer to the first one, I think, but not the second.
Well, if I want to go into the technical aspect, I just put a link in there for Brent. This is where content meets MarTech, MarTech meets CRM. Are the UTMs. To be very specific for that, every time that there's a click, okay, you need to measure that click. We use Bitleads, to manage that. But with Google, if you keep track of the different sources of that click, of that content, blog, call to action, video, whatever that is, and you pass that along to your marketing automation tool or to your e-commerce platform, and then it goes into the CRM, so when the shopping cart happen, or whatever the transaction, the case, whatever transaction happened, you can measure that. And what you need here is you need to have governance. You need to have governance for customer engagement. You need to have governance, not for marketing, not for sales, because sometimes we say, let's have marketing operations over here, let's have sales operations over here. And right now, so we need to have, customer engagement operations. It could be that you're customer centric, or you're not customer centric, or you do a digital transformation or some sort of innovation, but you need to have an operational model where you measure. Yes, you measure the campaign, but you need to measure the content. Okay, you need to measure that content, and that's what we're forgetting to do. Salesforce, if you follow every single link that they have, every single one, I wish we, eventually that will be my dream interview. Understand how they do it. They measure every single one. They have a governance of measuring content. Of course, you measure content, then you measure your campaign, and you can follow that. So you could be a big influencer, you can have all that, but you need to be sure that you're consistent and you measure that content. And that's for me the magic thing, how to do it, So, and it's difficult to do. You got to put out of investment. You need freedom, and you need a budget to manage that freedom. That's my take.
That's good stuff. Hey, I want to address this real quick. This comment that Alan made. He found on Small Business Trends, average YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers makes around $60,000 a year. My follow-up question or thought on that is that just what they're pulling in from advertising and not from some of the other things that we just talked about, the kind of the ancillary selling merch, selling opportunities to engage, whether it's, you want me to review something, but something that's not directly involved with the actual money that Google's paying out for ads. Because I would be, at least let's say this, the smart folks who have 1 million subscribers are not totally dependent on the advertising money coming right from Google. No. It's from these other things that they're able to do because they've got a huge audience of folks.
Yeah, and the algorithm changes all the time. And I think you have to have like 10,000 followers in order to hit the 60,000 plus. Okay, but YouTube is the stepping stone to other revenue generation channels.
But that's the YouTube payout. That's, I think, is what.
Right. And the Patreon in the back, where they
also their own sponsors. Their own sponsors
too. Right.
And YouTube doesn't stop that. So, I think it's just, you see the big brand ads that are being inserted.
They do merchandising,
right?
Special appearances, lectures.
I mean, these are evolved businesses, really. I mean, it's what they are, and they just happened to love what they did from the beginning, and that was it.
What's the best way for the enterprise to harness this or work with this, because they can't do it all themselves? Matter of fact, we all know it's almost sort of like Facebook. When the adults come in, the kids leave. And I have a suspicion if enterprise comes in too heavy-handed trying to work with these folks that have built their own followings and have their own voice and have their own way of engaging with their audiences. If enterprises just come in and just try to throw money at them, and also with that money comes direction as to how we want you to, engage on our behalf, that's just not going to work. How difficult is it going to be for enterprises who see the opportunity, or at least they're beginning to see the opportunity, see what these folks are doing? How will they be able to successfully engage that channel in a way that doesn't alienate the folks who love that channel?
I think Sony Music does a good job at doing that. They are there to promote the influencers and to promote, the Shakiras of the world. So they get that engagement on YouTube or Vivo, whatever it's called, the music channel on YouTube. And again, they measure every single link, every single content. Okay, now, could you put back what Marshall is saying, is that all links lead to Salesforce and the inbox of a salesperson? That's true. It doesn't matter which vendor, okay? Because what happened here, since they don't have a customer engagement model, that salesperson is going to call you to sell you something, do the transaction, not to have the conversation. So, in my opinion, companies who understand that audience, understand how to measure that content, and can translate that into the salesperson or the transaction in the commerce platform or the retail store, to be able to elaborate that conversation, I think those are the people who are going to be successful. But you cannot just say, let me push the content, let's hope for the best,
Right.
because then it's direct mailing in a sense. You want to be sure that personalization of that conversation, believe me, you know how many times I get phone calls because I download a white paper and I say, you haven't do a search in your CRM by Jesus Hoyos? If I'm not there, go to Google, LinkedIn.
This stuff is nuts, man. I get offered my own book.
And listen, and I have implementation with all the vendors, the Freshworks, the Soho, also,
I know.
and I take that content information, I bring that to the opportunity of the shopping cart level, so the sales rep understand the content and the context of what the person is looking for. Yes, they downloaded the white paper, but why and how? And there's so much data points out there that from the content generation, that if you capture that, you should be able to continue the conversation. Otherwise, it's another inbox.
Yeah, you think that's bad? Sometimes I get emails from this guy at Freshworks, this Alan Berkson dude. He should know better.
He should know better, Alan.
I don't know. Those, I always, that's been, of course, I think the entire history of CRM is the thing that makes me the most skeptical about it. Right. And all this stuff is that we're getting emails from CRM companies that are clearly have no clue they've sent emails to.
Well, Paul, Paul, that's what I asked on Tuesday. Are the vendors ready to do this?
Now, if they're at that level, no. No, they're not. I mean, look, they do a lot of things. Again, not black and white, but the reality is they need to. We've talked about how many years have they given lip service at least, and sometimes have actually done to personally, forget humanization, personalization. We'll just go to the first level here, right? And yet it's always seen, oh, I just see you've downloaded a white paper. I'm a regional sales guy for blah, blah, blah. And I'd like to talk to you about us. If it's not you, who at your company should I speak to? And I mean, the simplest matter is I am a one-man company. I mean, that's literally the least you could know about me, right?
But even on top of that, even when you reply something to the effect of, well, actually, your company is actually a client of mine that I do work with, so I wouldn't be in the market. I will get a reply that says, thanks for that. I'll circle back around later. Is there somebody better that we could talk to on this?
I know.
But listen, this is going back to YouTube. I'm following these three guys. That they do mountain biking all over United States and in Europe and South Africa and so on. And I have my checklist on Amazon, the things that I want to ask Cynthia, Santa, that I want for Christmas. They are all mountain bike related stuff, and I'm not going to any website, because there's no conversation, there's no reviews. So these guys out there are doing exactly that, they're generating that conversation,
Yes.
So, you need to generate that and that is content drive the conversation. And you are
making, I think, the fundamental point of all this transition going on, which is, look, I mean, several years ago, I think I mentioned this. I don't know if I mentioned it on Tuesday, but I've mentioned this before. I was at that advisory meeting with Thunderhead, and I want to reiterate it, even if I mentioned it. And we were talking about, they said, Phil Venville and company said, I did talk about this. Phil Venville and company said, you know what? We have to start. Marketing has to get past campaigns and get on to conversations. But it was too soon then. It was 7 years ago. Nobody really kind of got it. But right now, that is literally, it's not only, you better get that, right? It's not like, campaigns, as we've historically seen them, don't have much value anymore because they're not trusted at all, right? Where conversations are trusted. It goes right to your point, Jesus, on where you learn, and it's where Brent and I are the same thing. We constantly are sending each other YouTube video links about gear that the person had a really good review and discussion about this gear, right? And we know that coming from each other, we can trust the conversation that's gone on. And those are the kind of things that impact people's buying decisions now. And conversations is where this thing has to end, has to, let's say, start anew. And campaigns start changing the idea of what you think a campaign is, because it's no longer what it was, and still will remain successful. I don't want to be stark about it, but I'm going to be relatively stark about it for now. So I think that's a crux of the matter, is what you were saying, conversations.
Yeah, this is something when we started the social CRM, wave, and I started to put together, in Mexico with 10, 20 other people, the social media chapter. That was the thing, let's convert this conversation into transactions, and I said it back then, and we're still trying to have to figure that out. And I guess, people don't get it. There's too much noise out there. A lot of companies, a lot of personnel, a lot of CMOs, a lot of chief revenue officers, they don't get it still.
Well, then that's what we do, right? All of us,
Exactly.
all the people who are on this conversation here, three of us, everyone
takes time.
communicating here, just have to keep raising the level of noise and turn it into a conversation till we can literally have a conversation really loud.
Yeah.
And on that note, we need to have a conversation. We need to keep a conversation going, but we got to end this conversation because we're at the top of the hour. How'd you like that?
That was not a bad segue at all.
Not a bad.
Of course, we will end with the greatest ending of all times for a show.
Do we already know? He doesn't. He's not a Patriots fan, so we don't even have to ask him that.
No, God, that's not bother. It's
Me?
not even worth. Yeah, no, don't bother. We don't.
Are you a Dolphins fan? I can't remember.
No.
Are you you have a favorite team?
I've been boycotting NFL, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. I don't pay attention to it.
Why are you boycotting it?
Everything. I don't know.
Okay.
I cannot boycott the MLB,
No.
Well, we know why.
Baseball. Yeah, okay. Baseball and,
baseball,
whatever,
and daughter. Now daughter too.
My daughter, but yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I watch, playoff here and there, but I don't have a favorite NFL team. France,
Hey, whatever answer you gave us, it was going to be good, except for one thing, and we're good.
Yeah, and there's only one bad answer. So your answer could be, I don't even know what football is, and that would be fine.
Your answer could be Real Madrid.
That's right. Oh, that football? Yeah, it doesn't. It really makes no difference. But as long as it wasn't the Patriots, that's all it has to not answer.
They might win.
They might. I mean, they really might.
They might go to the Super Bowl with Tampa. I should say Tampa from Florida. Yeah, Tampa. But
no, it's too late, man.
Okay.
All right. This has been great. So we have completed the crossover. Feels good.
Year,
multiverse.
The
multiverse, not the metaverse.
So Jesus, where can people go again to check out? Do you just do the one, or do you do multiple series at this point?
I do 3. The other one is a podcast. Yeah. The other one is a podcast on Mondays, and Tuesdays, CRM Conversations and Drinking Coffee with Jesus Hoyos on Fridays. I have 2 more to go. One this Friday, one the following Friday.
People should take a look at Conversaciones. Link is in the LinkedIn.
Yeah, last Tuesday, where we start this conversation, you should listen to that one.
Well, listen to
Okay.
all of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I
and
say.
you can find me. You can find all my content in any podcast because they all go into podcasts. So I'm
Spotify,
like
YouTube,
yeah.
Spotify.
So if you search Jesus Hoyos CRM in YouTube podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever, Amazon, Audible, and so on and
That's
so
the
on, you'll
best
find me.
best answer.
Yeah,
Google me.
yeah. Jesus Hoyos, CRM. Can't miss me.
All right. Perfect.
And on that note, on behalf of Jesus Hoyos, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM players, and we're getting down to what? The last 2 shows of the year or something like that?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe it's
could
just
be
the last
3.
show of the year.
No, there's the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th. It depends on how we play it.
Yeah.
It could be 3.
Stay tuned.
And stay tuned for January. Big announcement.
Big. And you know what else is big? Our love of many.
Oh my God. That's eternal too.
We'll see you later.